What does it take to have your name become synonymous with League of Legends? For some, it's their longevity and exposure on the Riot team like Freak and his longtime catchphrase, tons of damage. For others, it's their impact on the pro scene, like when LS had his name added as a shortcut when searching for items in the shop. But while those previous ways of becoming ingrained in League culture are great, in my opinion, there is one thing that can take you to the highest echelons of the annals of League, and that is having your name synonymous with a mechanic or champion. You already know the most common ones, like when kicking an enemy after Warthog was first named the Insect, or when backdooring an enemy's Nexus against all odds turned into the Xpeke. But do you know about the player who not only dominated the Korean pro scene, but was also the first player to be called God before Faker ever exploded onto the scene? This is Legends of League, and the rise and fall of the best Thresh player there ever was, Madlife. Madlife, or Min Ki Hong, started playing competitive games at a young age, starting as early as age 7 playing StarCraft, a notoriously high micro game that even I find myself sweating when playing to this day. He continued to hone his craft and skills in StarCraft until early 2010 when a player introduced him to the budding game of League of Legends, where he was 18 at the time. The Korean server wasn't always the powerhouse that modern day players know today. In fact, it didn't even exist when Madlife first started playing the game. It's easy to forget since it was so long ago, but Korea was the last major region to get their hands on League in 2012, 3 years after the official release of the game in 2009. At this time, for Korean players to play matchmaking, they were forced to join other servers with high ping just to try to play the game. And even at this time, the prowess of the region was on display, and with all these factors against them and not even having their own official server, they still formed a team to compete in the first major League of Legends tournament in 2010, taking second place. By the time the servers were live, major Korean esports orgs were scrambling to create the best roster they could. And of those new esports organizations that spawned from the release of League of Legends in Korea, MIG Frost was among them. Created by the top laner of the team, Woong, who was able to climb to the front page of the solo queue ladder and assemble a team of equally impressive members, including Cloud Templar, a renowned jungler, Rapid Star, one of the best mid laners in Korea, and Loco Doco, who had already made a name for himself playing ADC in the LCS for Team Solo Mid while attending school in the United States. The only outlier on the team was their support player, Madlife. Woong had met Madlife on an online gaming community website where he asked him if he'd like to join his team for an unofficial offline tournament known as the World Cyber Gaming Prelims. Madlife at the time was unknown to the community. He planned on grinding 1,000 wins in normal games before he even ever touched the ranked ladder, so it's fair to say that of all the members on this team, he was the one with the most unknowns. It was during that initial WCG tournament that the team found its name in MIG Frost and truly began to take future tournaments seriously after their very solid performance taking second place. After their success, Madlife and the other team members moved into a small house together to play games and practice. Sponsorless and with no monthly income, the players and coaches of the team continued to grind based on passion and faith alone that League of Legends would become a titan. While pouring their blood, sweat, and tears into the game in that tiny house thanks to the funding of Woong's father's construction company, they looked forward to the first official League of Legends tournament that was slated just 1 month after the launch of Korean servers, the OGN Invitational. This tournament was most exciting because there was serious international competition, including what, at the time, was the best North American team in CLG, as well as China's most dominant team in Team World Elite. And the hype didn't disappoint. Western fans were excited when CLG was able to overtake Team WE in the group stage, who was largely considered to be the best team in the world and the most likely to make it to finals. Alongside CLG in the finals would be Madlife and MIG Frost. After all the speculation and unknowns, the West was not ready for the beatdown that was about to follow. None of the videos from the event survived, but looking at tournament results, we can see that it was a complete stomp, with MIG Frost taking the grand finals 2-0 over CLG, with Madlife finishing the series with an impressive 10.6 KDA, playing both Janna and Alistar. Shortly after this impressive win, MIG MIG would go on to pick up another roster of players to form a second team for the organization, which would come to be known as MIG Blaze. And shortly after that, both teams would receive sponsorship from German media group Azubu to be officially renamed to Azubu Frost and Azubu Blaze. Creating a sister team was unheard of at the time and honestly a pretty big brain move. Hiring other top competitors that you can scrim with on the regular would help push both teams to the forefront of the League of Legends esports scene. From this, the first official spring split of the LCK would start, with both the best teams from NA, being CLG, and the best team from EU, being Fnatic, attending to see if they could show any prowess after recognizing Korea as a major threat. This time, both Azubu Frost and Azubu Blaze were the teams to beat, and once the dust settled and playoffs commenced, both sister teams found themselves on opposite sides of the bracket. It's important to note that at this time, Thresh wasn't released, and while in previous tournaments Madlife had shown his adeptness with similar champion Blitzcrank, the meta at the time was heavily revolving around strong enchanters like Janna and Sona, or tanky engaged champions such as Alistar, of which Madlife spent most of his time playing throughout his early career. Both Azubu teams worked their way through the playoff bracket to end up facing one another in the finals. And even though Madlife and Frost fell to a 3-0 sweep to their sister team, they would continue on to the summer split with high hopes. It was after this crushing loss, though, that their ADC Loco Doco would leave the team, and top laner Woong would move into the ADC role to allow new talent Shy to play his main role in top lane. After teams from around the world saw both CLG and Fnatic take the opportunity to play in Korea in the spring split, they too decided they wanted a piece of the action in the upcoming summer split, and other strong international competition would join the fray in the LCK, including CLG once again, Team Dignitas, Team WE, Na'Vi, and what was now viewed as the strongest European team in the world, CLG EU. The group stages would start slow for Madlife and Azubu Frost as they attempted a new strategy with Nunu support paired with Vayne that would ultimately hand them their only loss of group stages. And that is when Madlife switched to Blitzcrank, and the team was able to win their final 2 group stage games with ease to move once again on to the playoff bracket. After blowing through their quarterfinal opponents in CLG NA once again, Frost would then have to meet their sister team Blaze in the semifinals. This was Madlife and Frost's chance to prove that they had progressed as a team, but would they be able to do so against a team they scrimmed against regularly and that would know every one of their tactics? With each team trading blows back and forth, it was Frost that was able to finally close the best of 5 series in the 5th game and once again move their way into the finals. But now with Blaze defeated, there was a new team in their way to meet them in the finals, CLG EU, and they had what many people considered to be the best player in the world on their team, Froggen. CLG EU came out strong, with Froggen and 80 carry Yellow Pete leading the way to a 2-0 start to the series in favor of the European team. But with some strong strategies and a standout Blitzcrank game for Madlife in Game 4, and an even more impressive perfect no-death Alistar Game 5, Azubu Frost not only proved once again that Korea was still the strongest nation of League of Legends, but that they were ready for the World Finals that they had now qualified for. The two top teams from Korea were to move on to the World Championship, and thanks to beating their sister team in the quarterfinals, it wasn't Azubu Blaze who would be attending World Finals with them. It was instead Najin Sword. Azubu Frost went in as the team to beat, and had a large target on their back that was only intensified after a cheating allegation that was proven to be true when Woong was caught looking at the minimap on the projectors in the stadium in Game 1 against TSM. Ultimately, Woong would go on to receive a $30,000 fine, as well as other players receiving warnings from various teams throughout the tournament taking advantage of this gross negligence from Riot's early event team. Thankfully, Riot did not think that this was enough grounds to disqualify Azubu Frost as a whole. But even with that target on their back and the cheating allegations turning what seemed to be the world against them, Azubu Frost was able to plow through all of their competition once again, in part due to solid Enchanter play from Madlife. Having silenced the haters, Madlife and team had made it to the World Final stage against underdogs Taipei Assassins, the only team from this region even to this day to ever get so far in a World Championship. Madlife and Azubu Frost had to be careful though. Even though TPA were the underdogs, they had already blown through their Korean counterparts in Najin Sword in the first round of the tournament. Even so, the world expected Azubu Frost to win. After all, they were the favorite, and TPA was a nobody team that had gotten lucky up to this point. But unfortunately for Madlife and team, it wasn't so. After a heart-wrenching Game 1 where Frost was barely able to pull off the win, mid laner Toys and the Taipei Assassins were able to win the next 3 games in a row in what would go down as one of the biggest upsets in League of Legends history. Korea had fallen to a no-name team on the biggest stage in the world, and both Frost and Madlife were devastated. But he wasn't done yet. Thresh was released on January 23, 2013, just in time to be played in the first split of the 2013 LCK season, but we wouldn't see Madlife pick the champion in pro play until Frost had officially changed sponsors from Azubu to CJ Entus in the spring split of 2013. While this season wouldn't be nearly as successful as his last run to the World Finals, this year would serve as Madlife's coming out party and would display some of the most crazy hook plays anyone had ever seen at the time. Plays like these earned Madlife the title of God. Astounding saves and hooks paved the way for new supports who were entering the scene to model their own gameplay after. However, CJ Entus Frost, from their high thrones of being the favorites to win Season 2 World Finals, then began to struggle in Season 3 regardless of these crazy plays, losing in their first tournament of the year to Gambit Gaming in semifinals, getting swept in the LCK Winter Split Finals, and then following up with a 3-1 loss to their sister team CJ Entus Blaze in the IEM World Finals, an unofficial League of Legends event. With their struggles, Madlife's ADC and founding member Woong would eventually exit the team in favor of new ADC Hermes, who was then also replaced by bot laner Space after CJ Entus fell further in the spring tournament finals to 4th place. Perhaps the only high note of Season 3, aside from Madlife's plays themselves, was that he was selected for the All-Star game, a tournament where each major region would have their pro players select their top player in each position to attend a best-of-3 style face-off, where the winning region would take home another spot for the upcoming World Finals. Madlife received 80% of the pro player votes for the support role, being the highest percentage there ever was for voting in All-Star games. Alongside Madlife on the All-Star team was CJ entus member Shy in the top lane, and in true Korean fashion, they helped their Korean team 2-0 sweep everybody in their way, ultimately winning that additional spot for a Korean team in World Championships, taking the number of representatives from Korea from 2 to 3. Even with all of these plays, both Madlife and CJ entus Frost wouldn't make their way to the World Finals this year. They didn't earn enough league points in this season and ultimately lost the third Korean spot to new team SKT1. SK Telecom and their new star Faker would then go on to also take that year's World Championship. By and large, thanks to that extra spot, both Shy and Madlife had won for them. The struggles continued after this crushing realization for Madlife and Frost. Season 4 ended up being even more devastating, with them finishing in the bottom half of the LCK at the end of the season, meaning that they both missed regional finals and world finals for the first time ever. Along the way, changes and coaching swaps meant many players leaving, including original jungler Cloud Templar officially retiring, along longtime mid laner Rapid Star. To make things even more bleak for the CJ entus teams, a new rule change for the LCK stated that sister teams were no longer allowed, and CJ entus Blades and CJ entus Frost would need to merge into one team of CJ entus. Thankfully, 3 players from the Frost roster were to be saved, including top laner Shy, ADC Space, and support Madlife. After the merger in Season 5, CJ entus still struggled to perform. Riddled with the same struggles and roster changes as Season 4, they just barely had enough league points to make it to the LCK Finals this year, where they once again fell in semifinals to miss Worlds for a third year in a row. Season 6 that followed saw more of the same struggles and roster inconsistencies. The team ended up finishing the season with an abysmal record of 11-25. To really drive home all these roster inconsistencies, throughout all of Season 6, Madlife was the only player on the team who started every game. Regardless, they were still locked into last place in this LCK season, and CJ entus had to participate in the 2017 LCK promotion tournament, where they could potentially be relegated or removed from the LCK completely. But even through all of these struggles in the past 3 seasons, if there was one thing that remained consistent, it was the crazy aggressive and highlight-worthy plays of Madlife. Despite these plays, despite being the only player to ever win all 3 All-Star tournaments, and despite his undying devotion to his team all this time, CJ entus would end up losing in the 2017 LCK promotion tournament, leaving the team and Madlife relegated from pro play. After this painful loss, Madlife would go on to play for Goldcoin United, an aspiring NA Challenger Series team with the hopes of winning enough in this minor league to fight their way for a spot into the NA pro scene, the LCS, by winning a promotion tournament. Along the way, Madlife would be reunited with his ex-teammate Loco Doco as his head coach, and play alongside now Team Liquid Golden Boy Santorin as his jungler. He had a lot going for him here, and even though the team placed first in both the 2017 spring and summer regular season playoffs, they would fall short of ever winning the following promotional tournament, and therefore never make it to the LCS. After failing twice to make it into the pro scene once again, Madlife left America to return back home to Korea. Reportedly, when he did return home, he had started up negotiations with multiple teams from different regions, including Korea, Europe, China, and Turkey, but was satisfied with none of the offers and decided to stream until summer split. During that break between spring and summer split, Madlife had decided to fully retire from pro play. Aside from streaming, where you can still catch his insane 300 IQ plays from time to time, Madlife, who I should mention at this point prefers his real name, Min Ki Hong, also has appeared as a commentator on a few official Riot Game casts. Madlife was important to the support role in League of Legends. If it weren't for him, many of your favorite support players today may still be playing those boring Enchanter supports we saw in Season 2. Big names like Aframu have credited Min Ki-hong as a large reason in both innovation and inspiration for the support role as a whole. To exemplify how much of an impact Madlife had on the support role, in his final professional game in the LCS 2017 Summer Promotional Tournament, he would match up against Golden Guardian support Matt, who was so inspired by Madlife that he originally went by Madlife in solo queue. Matt would go on to say, "I looked up to Madlife and ended up playing against him in the relegation tournament. I ended up beating him. That was probably the last time he was playing on stage. So it kind of feels like I was the last step until he retired." So pretty surreal to be that part of his legacy. He was probably one of the biggest reasons why I main support. In one final interview with Min Ki-hong, labeled "Please remember that this isn't the end," he says, "A lot of people remember me as a player that revolutionized the support role. I'm very happy and satisfied that I'll be remembered as that player. I was the player that changed the image of the support role back in the day, so please remember as such. Thank you so much for having cheered for me when I was a player, but please remember that this isn't the end. I'll still be alive, you know, so please look forward to what kind of path Min Ki-hong will walk in the future. I'll show myself from time to time through streaming and guest commentating, so please continue to cheer for me."